Good morning, Lagos. Thank you very much for being a part of the show this morning. I'm Ayo Mairo Ese.
And I am Valentine Ohu. Good morning.
It's time for us to look at some newspaper stories this morning, and we have 9 of them to go through. To do that with us, we have our analyst, whom I'll be introducing very shortly. But before then, note that you can be a part of the conversation this morning. Simply head on to Twitter at Smooth981FM using the hashtag FreshlyPress981.
On YouTube, we subscribe to our channel so you can get a prompt when we come on live. And you can join the conversation on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Twitter is at smooth981FM. The hashtag is FRESHLYPRESSED981. Our WhatsApp number, if you didn't get it earlier, it's 0809 4440981.
All right, joining us for the conversation, we have Adenike Oyetunde. Morning, Adenike.
Good morning, gentlemen, and good morning, Ayo, and good morning, Lagos.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Adenike. Morning, Tunde Okufi.
Morning, Naya. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Morning, Valentine.
Good morning.
Tunde's at Big Coops on Twitter, and we have Wade Ahime. Morning, Wade.
Morning, Ayo. Welcome back. Morning, Valentine.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Wade is at Reinc Nigeria. Now, Adenike Oyetunde is Adenike Oyetunde on Twitter. And I'll come to you for the first story this morning. January 12 dates for illegal aliens deportation stands, says the federal government. Now, the federal government has insisted that any undocumented alien that fails to take part in the e-registration of the Nigeria Immigration Service will be deported after the January 12, 2020 deadline. Beyond that, there's also the threat of a jail term for those who are found to be in Nigeria illegally. But please take us through this story, Adenike.
Okay, so the NIS spokesperson stated this and talked about people like that are non-Nigerian and are here and here we refer to as aliens, and clearly spelled out that for as many Nigerians who have in their employ persons like security guards, nannies, or the helps in their homes,
Or cooks.
exactly, in whatever capacity they function or you employ them for, you have up until January 12th next month to register them with the NIS, and failing which you stand a chance of being sentenced to a 7-year term or to the tune of 1 million naira or both.
Sorry, excuse me. So, who stands the risk?
The employer.
The employer.
Yes. And for the alien, what it is you will be deported and probably never allowed re-entry actually into Nigeria.
Okay.
So I actually did go on the website because they stated categorically that it's very easy. You can either do the walk-in desk registration or do the e-registration.
What's the website?
The NIS yada yada yada. Hold on. It's yes, immigration.gov.ng.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you go on there, you will see. Now, they have also mentioned that ECOWAS nationals also have to register.
Yeah.
And he stated categorically that the Republic of Benin is registering its citizens, residents in Nigeria, and they're doing that over a period of time, I think for a few weeks, because they want to stick to some ECOWAS treaty that is supposed to guarantee security in their host country. So, of course, they have the power. There's an Immigration Act and blah, 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 blah. So if you go on the site, you will see who qualifies, who doesn't qualify. People who don't qualify, people under the age of 18, people who are enjoying diplomatic immunity of some sort, and all and all.
I mean, normal practice, standard practice.
So I'm just here thinking to myself, there are a lot of people that fall into this category, you know, without sounding like there are certain careers that we have, you know, somehow found to be carried or performed by people from outside Nigeria. If you take a look at the people who drive the tricycles or kekes, napep, and then the people who ride the Okadas, a lot of them are not Nigerians.
Domestic staff in our homes.
Domestic staff are not Nigerian. A lot of the guards are not Nigerians. So it's not necessary. You can no longer exonerate yourself as the employer. You need to start to find out where these people are. And I also feel like it's also security. It's for security purposes. You know, I happen to know a situation where a non-Nigerian was working in a home and had stolen property and done. There was no way we could go to. Yes, person was gotten from an agency, but they had also given some address. When the agency went to the address, they had relocated from the place. So it just gives you some semblance of security. So employers would be employers. What it is you either stand the chance of getting sent to the to a jail term of 7 years or pay the fine of 1 million naira, or both of them. and all that will happen to the person, who has defaulted to registering is deportation or non-entry, re-entry into the country.
I think this brings to bear the responsibility to the employer or the person who is housing such a person. And I do think that, that's fair enough.
Yes,
if you're going to employ someone, you must do your due diligence with regards to background information.
Sean
Thanks,
says,
Adenike.
how do I know for sure someone is an alien? How would they find aliens and enforce this directive? How about the ones who are almost certain about, the ones who live and sleep on their okadas and in their kekes? How are they getting in? So someone gets in, then just registers and he's free to be in Nigeria?
I went to do. I think this is one of the reasons why we have been told to get a national identification.
Yes.
Because when you go there, I had to call my parents to get their local government, the exact one. They would ask you all of these things. So for the person who's concerned about people who come in, it means that they're supposed to get us information. Unfortunately, we cannot confirm. If you come to register and you say, oh, you're from one place, we're just going to stick with what it is that you're provided.
Yes.
And a person has raised a question, how do we confirm the authenticity or otherwise of the information that these people give? We cannot confirm. So maybe there's a process that says come back after 3 months where we would have done our own due diligence. You and I know that the propensity of that is very
well, like
very
you mentioned, the first step is registration of your national ID card, so a national identity number. So make sure you get that, and that's a good way at least of doing your own, fulfilling your own part.
Am from Akoka very quickly says, I do not know what the timeline, if the timeline is feasible, but forgive my pessimism. Also, I heard about this move not too long ago. So how effective has the publicity or awareness been? It's A, for good intention, but we wait with bated breath.
All right, thanks, MI, and everyone else who sent in comments. Wadi, I'll come to you. Guardian has this report. Senate moves for enforcement of 35% affirmative action on female appointees. I'm female, I'm excited. I like reading this headline. So I'll allow you to take this story. So apparently they're rejigging, it's in the constitution. They're now trying to enforce it. Many governors are not compliant.
I'm not really sure that is in the constitution, but they're bringing in a clause to make it a provision in the constitution that government must have at least 35% female representative on their cabinet. This is, for me, it's a good move because it goes to help gender promotion in terms of governance in Nigeria. So many studies have shown that women tend to be better in the aspects of governance when it comes to whether it's business or running a country. I think is a wonderful development. They're going to bring in under the constitution 2 new subsections in under section 147 and also under section
192.
Yes. So at the end of the day, it would, because the president had promised the last time that I was going to have about 35% female representation on his cabinet, but as of today, they have only 16 point something percent. So I think it's a good move. Let's enshrine it in the constitution, and then there at that point, nobody can say it's not the rule of the country.
Do you think we'd get to a point ever, and I'm just asking this because we've seen in a rise, shall I say, in terms of women empowerment, women, strive for equality, equity, fairness. Do you think we'd come to a point in Nigeria whereby there wouldn't be a need for this? We would have achieved this to be normal practice.
Yes, I think, because a lot of, especially in the private sector, a lot of businesses based on the requirements of the sustainable development goals are pushing in that direction. Some organizations are 20, 25. Some are pushing and have even put in internal policies to drive their the representation of women in their organizations to at a minimum of 35% in the next couple of years. I was somewhere last week and I was listening to the lady, and they had a staff strength of about 95. They had 40 women, and I was really, really impressed.
That's impressive.
Really impressed. They had about 25% representation on management and generally. So it's really important, and I think it would drive just because of sustainability.
Thank you very much. I think it's important to note that it's not just because we want to see women there. If we're going to represent fairly with regards to the population, we have more women than men, so it's only fair that it should be reflected. It should be represented at all levels.
And the focus is for managerial roles, key positions really in government, both government and private
sector.
Ruwan says, freshly pressed from Lekki, thank you, Ruwan. I'll be glad if the exercise can be a continuum from the NIS, as this talking about the alien issue and registration of such, and not a mere announcement. It will play a large, cause a huge impact, positive impact in terms of security. Let's move on to our next story from Premium Times. Nigeria is recruiting ex-Boko Haram fighters. They speak about this in response to some criticism, or I would say conspiracy theories for some people, suggesting that the military might be bringing in some of the people that were de-radicalized into the force. But the Defense Headquarters has dismissed this claim, the alleged recruitment of the radicalized Boko Haram ex-fighters, that is. The acting director of Defense Information, Ayo Mairo Ese, disclosed this in a statement he made yesterday. Tunde, please take us through this story and just appraise the address that he gave in reaction to this.
Well, I don't think they should be so quick to debunk or react as strongly as they have, and I'll say this for one simple reason. Well, first off, we should make a distinction between bringing them into the military as military officers or working with them, as you suggested, as being part of the wider, larger operation. There is no struggle, there's no war, and there's no battle that has been fought through history without getting, in some way, inroads into the opposition and getting people who were part of the opposition or part of the enemy camp or part in the enemy camp who become sympathetic to your cause. So it is actually it's an active part of war to see if you can get people who are in the enemy camp or close links to the enemy camp and who would then support your cause. I mean, look at the fights against terrorism. al-Baghdadi wouldn't have been found out if people within his camp hadn't offered up information. Yes, there may have been incentives to do so, but there's no way they were going to find him. Same with Bin Laden. Through his, I mean, you can as Greek warriors. It was one Spartan that gave up the rest. Is why is why they lost that battle. So there's nothing wrong with the process. We shouldn't react to it in this manner. Yes, bringing them is if it's a case of giving them officers and giving them certain posts, yes, that might be obviously become a problem, because then you have to worry about the possibility of them being having dual allegiances and being double agents. But working actively with people who had been sympathetic to Boko Haram and had turned is different. Now, that said, the process of de-radicalization is it's a very delicate one. It's a very thin balance. I mean, only a few days ago, we all heard about what happened on London Bridge, and now it's the process of someone who was supposedly being de-radicalized, then turning on and attacking the people who was working with and going on your rampage. So it's not all bad, but I'm just saying the way they've suddenly the way we almost say that very quickly in Nigeria say, oh, over God forbid type of thing. No. I mean, there are benefits to working with them where possible.
But at least establishing, I like the words you used, chosen carefully. At least to establish the fact that they're not being incorporated in the military for functional roles, because one of the ways they describe this Operation Safe Corridor is it being a operation requires no force, no force of military.
So they're not deployed.
Yes, but they could provide useful information.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right, so we have, I was expecting now reactions to the first story, second story, positive affirmation. But before then, Timothy has this on local government. Greetings, a letter from a local government or traditional ruler identifying you and your roots or family tree or genealogy. For those who don't attend family or town meetings, even Nigerians abroad create communities. Now, Yemi Richard says, I think the 35% rule is discriminatory. Women already pass most aptitude tests than women, and given time, women will be in most dominant roles in business. We should just simply allow competency to be the major criteria, and women will be taken care of. And then Chika says that Nigerian population 2019 demographics maps graphs 1.04 males to every 1 female in the country. So she's refuting the claim that women are more than men in Nigeria, that actually. But again,
again, this is not a matter of population or gender parity in a sense. It's about inclusion in the scheme of things in terms of running the government and holding key positions.
And because this is very it's male-dominated.
It's a male-dominated
society.
society.
It has to be.
You have to be deliberate.
Yeah, it
It has to be
intentional.
deliberate actions towards ensuring that it's
Absolutely.
Sorry.
I
There
had
has
to
to be
put this
deliberate
in.
actions towards ensuring that first and foremost you get more women into the system, and that, like you said, competency would show, and more
Absolutely.
women will come in.
All right,
Thank
I had
you.
to put this in. Abdul says, apart from the Spartans, Tunde, Judas Iscariot.
Oh, definitely.
All right, let's move on.
No way.
Let's move on to our next story. Punch newspaper Adenike says 5 months after inauguration, senators yet to set up constituency offices. So it's 5 months since they've been inaugurated, and many senators have yet to establish constituency offices, coming from investigations by the Punch newspaper. Please take us through their findings.
Okay, so it's just an extensive one about several states and how many senators in each state have opened their constituency offices, and from Katsina State to Ogun State to Gombe State, even to the FCT, the Ebonyi State. It's just maybe of the 3 senators, say for the FCT, of the 3 senators from each state, maybe 1 or 2 of them have constituency offices. And my question really was that you have offices, are they functional? What happens there? But that's a different conversation, because the truth is there is nowhere in the Nigerian law that mandates that each person must have a constituency office. However, there are budgetary allocations for constituency projects, which presupposes that these projects can be overseen from a specific place where actions or activities will take place, which sheds more light on constituency offices. So I'm concerned about, if we're earmarking money for these constituency projects, do we also want to start to mandate that these people must have constituency offices? Secondly, it's very necessary for us to tell ourselves that these constituency offices are not for us to go there with our personal issues. It's an unpopular opinion, and the reality about it is,
so sorry to cut.
Yeah,
but
sure.
what would you term as personal issues?
Yeah, I was heading there. I know someone who was a senator and a family friend, and you would occasionally be in their neck of the wood and say, hey, are you guys home? And there will be this long queue. Why? Everybody is there. Not everyone. A lot of people are there for house rent, hospital bills, and it's a larger reflection of how we are actually poor as a people.
Yes.
But the truth is, there will have to come a time when we would have to stop it. When that would happen, I have no idea. That's the truth.
All right, let me just ask you a question. Now, the reason, so for me, if you keep going to your representative that you should pay your house rent, and he's tired of seeing you, he will do something about the reason why you're coming to him for house rent.
That's why I said that the reality about it is it sheds light on bigger issues. How it just feels like there is an intent to keep people impoverished, so they keep coming back. And this notion of that is why they siphon a lot, because they are factoring people that will come and collect. You know what they do? They actually have standard fee. They have envelopes with 20,000, 50,000. No matter the problem that you bring, it never exceeds that amount, because there are 100 people every day, and of the 100 people, probably 10, 15 people have only genuine concerns of the constituency. How do we move this place forward? Our street doesn't have water, and it's very upsetting that we have to consistently remind them about the problems that they fail to see. Why? Even when they claim that they do not reside in these constituencies. And finally, in this Punch report, a number of people talked about insecurity, and why I chose not to mention it, because I just feel like it's ludicrous. When you knew that you were submitting yourself to work as a person for the people, you did not know that there were insecurity issues. Now that you've been elected, and probably you're now in Abuja, you now remember that there are insecurity issues and you cannot visit. So if we're looking at the law, we should also look at, if at all we have to state there, you must visit your office so and so time, you must do this so and so time, but that's not going to happen.
And then let me ask again. I mean, Adenike, you painted a very nice what do you call it, hypothetical situation, right? But is it really what's the case in reality? Do these people go asking or questioning them for the certain work that they're supposed to be doing, or do they go seeking for handouts?
Okay, Tunde has been raising his hand.
Sorry.
Tunde, please just make a point.
This is the government that people see, right? so when senators go into the community or in the community, we're supposed to have local government people as well, but different parts of the government people see, and the people will raise the issues that are paining them. When you live in a country as poor as ours, with so many people disenfranchised, they will bring the issues that deal with them. Nobody can come and talk about good roads when the belly is empty. So they will talk about, the belly is empty. They will talk about they don't have shelter. They will talk about those things, right? And unfortunately, some of our lawmakers actually think their job is to give out these handouts. And it's a moral issue. It becomes difficult for them to say, I can't give you money for rent. When you use our money to send your children abroad, when you use your money to buy yourself a Range Rover or whatever it is, and we all knew your station in life before you got into politics, right? So it becomes, you can't stand on that moral high horse and say, I can't give you money to go and eat or money for your rent. You understand?
All right.
It's the national cake they're sharing.
Thank you very much, Tunde.
How does it improve the economy, though?
It doesn't, not one dot.
All right, more stories to go through. This one is about loan to deposit ratio is in the conversation here. Finance being a major focus of this. From New Telegraph, Wadi, the International Monetary Fund has said that the Central Bank of Nigeria's loan to deposit ratio (LDR) policy could negatively impact the country's banking industry, as it may result in the weakening of lenders' balance sheets. We'll recall that some time ago there was a call to the deposit money banks to align with this new directive. But tell us, with this new outcry from the IMF, what is it? How does it affect our economy?
In a number of ways, I guess what they're saying is quite true, because you already have the banks who have poor loan portfolios from the onset. A lot of the banks have non-performing loans that have been taken over by AMCON from time to time, and now you're increasing the amount of loans they should give out in an economy where people take monies, even those who can pay don't pay them back. So you find out that, and what are these loans for exactly? Are they loans to help develop the infrastructure of the economy, or are they loans for consumption? A lot of the loans, like I see, especially with the increase and talking about growing the retail sector of a lot of the loans are not driven into business. A lot of the loans are loans that you use for consumption. So at the end of the day, if, for instance, Mr. A loses his job and he takes a loan, automatically there is a tendency that loan is going to become
So you've
bad.
captured the problem. Now, what are those factors that you would identify as being the major causes of this bad loans that we see?
The first one is the banks themselves not doing their due diligence correctly, which is the major part. Now the CBN is forcing them. Are they still doing their due diligence correctly? I don't think so. Secondly, what's the focus of the bank in actually giving out these loans to drive this loan deposit ratio? They're looking at people who are in employment. Come and take a loan against your salary. Come and take a loan against your earnings. So you find out that at the end of the day, what happens is it's just circular. So I'm just borrowing to live over a short period, rather than looking for long-term financing structures that would help build businesses to generate more employment and create more possibilities.
While you may be right, subjectively to a particular angle, some people might argue with you that this is not, the banks don't necessarily ignore their due diligence. Some of them do it, but some may argue that the real problem is because some of these banks have been found guilty of giving loans to people they know, high net worth individuals, and not necessarily spreading across board to increase the network capture. Like right now, a lot of banks are giving loans to SMEs. The 20 million naira loan that's available to them within a short time span without collateral. So there's the issue of the due diligence. You mentioned collateral, but also spreading it to not just people they know.
Okay, so just a second, Tunde. So I agree with the fact that you're giving loans to SMEs, but what's the length of the loan?
2 years.
Is it long enough for them to drive the business that they require? Because some of these things, like you say, it's a continuous what's it called? A company in growth continues to require monies to finance it until it can stand on its own.
That's right.
Yeah, let me just tie two things quickly together. So we talk about why we have so many bad loans. In the sense, I'll say maybe let's look at it from the angle of scarcity. And when things are scarce, it becomes exclusive, and then you know, connection and all those things to get what it is that you want. So very often you get a situation where people who ideally shouldn't, you know, let me put it this way: people who are seeking loans become willing to do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do if it wasn't scarce, right? If we change the paradigm and loans are a lot more accessible, then perhaps people wouldn't be put in those kind of situations where, because you know, these are practices that happen where loans are loaded, you know, over and above the extent that the business actually needs, because some manager somewhere wants something to offer you, to give you the loan. So scarcity is a major issue. If by regulation they are forced to make a lot more cash available to the real sector, then perhaps, you know, for ages we've been talking about the banks actually not doing banking,
What they're supposed to,
right? You only need to look at the profits that they declare. I mean, you need to look no further, to be honest. Look at the profits that they declare. Look at the take home at the very top of these institutions. Lend more.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Tunde. We have Dari from Lagos saying the function of the legislators is to make laws and not to give handouts and executing projects. We need to educate our people to stop extorting their lawmakers in the name of dividends of democracy.
Wade, I'll come back to you. As I'll signal to you to keep the mic.
Okay.
Okay, actually, Tunde, sorry. You're free now. The New Telegraph has this report. Central Bank of Nigeria, rice farmers meet to curb scarcity, price stability. They're seeing that there's a looming problem with food, especially being available for this December. Today is the 2nd. What are your thoughts regarding this story?
Okay, my thoughts are they said to see.
In the face of Christmas and New Year.
Yeah. So
Yes.
okay, all right. I made someone else's. So we've met to curb, or they've met, the CBN and rice farmers. They met to curb scarcity and achieve price stability. My first immediate thoughts are, you know, there is the meeting, as we very often like to. The meeting is not going to curb scarcity. Regarding price stability, it may achieve some price stability. It will achieve price stability in the short term, at least, because they come together and say, look, guys, this is how much we should sell this for, sort of, you know, price, you know, fix. But it will last for a period only because ultimately the, you know, market forces will determine. Now it won't solve scarcity. It will not solve the scarcity at all. And
Yes.
all right.
It won't solve scarcity.
It won't solve the scarcity of rice. And the story mentions or talks about you know, a focus, them making pronouncements and telling us that, that this meeting is being held so that there will be adequate rice for Christmas and going forward. And it's not now when, I mean, we're already, I think, the 2nd day of December, that a meeting is going to change that dynamic. Now, CBN has done a lot of work in driving, you know, this initiative with this anchor borrowers program, focused on different sectors, farming being one of them, and rice production in particular, giving special loans and concessions to farmers who want to focus on rice production. The Anchors program was started about 4 years ago. Have we stepped back to measure the success and impact of that, and how it has changed things? So it's not going to happen suddenly now. The reason why this is what has brought this into sharp focus is the fact that the borders are closed, quote unquote. So we haven't been able to bring rice in. Well, beyond border closure, you know, the importation of rice has been, you know, should I use the word limited or banned, for a while, since this program has been, you know, prohibited since this program started. But the truth is the program hasn't been able to meet our needs, and those needs were satisfied, you know, through the borders illegally. So now the borders have been shut. The inflow of rice isn't as high. We all love our jollof. Christmas is coming, you know, people are panicky. I can't be sure entirely that, you know, half of the plate of rice that you eat at the end of the year wouldn't have come in through the borders, because I and a number of other people that I know find it very difficult to find locally produced rice, and when you do, it's rarely of the right quality. So
I guess
it's
good.
good.
On the head.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's not by sitting down and making pronouncements within a meeting.
questions. Thank you. Shola says, I do not think it's about scarcity, and you rarely see people asking for something for loans. The question is, have SMEs positioned themselves for these loans? It's talking about the banking loans and the LDR. That's a loan to deposit ratio. How many SMEs keep records? How many SMEs understand these conditions for loans? Rotu says, Valentine, can you pay back 20 million in 2 years? Banks are taking us for a ride, but I do not blame them because CBN is forcing them, is what he said. Max Zorin here says,
He says, have we looked at the information on individuals and SMEs available for credit due diligence? If a bank has scanty information on the business owner and even less on his 3-year-old business plan, how can they give him or her a 5 to 10-year loan?
Yeah, they shouldn't give those individuals, obviously, they shouldn't cut or they shouldn't change any of the requirements for issuing loans, and nobody's asking for that.
yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Tunde. Thank you, Ade, and thanks a lot, Adenike. Adenike is Adenike Oyetunde on Twitter, and Big Hoofs Tunde, as well as Ade on Wink Nigeria. We are at Smooth 91 FM. Please keep the conversation going using the hashtag Pressed 981. At 8:15, Tega will be here with the Locker Room 981. Good morning.
What people fail to realize is that a lot of